Hello, everyone. It's Jennie and Laurie of Astropath. So, just for quick introductions, Jennie is of Hidden Path Astrology. You can find her at hiddenpathastrology.com. You can find all the information for both of us below in the show notes. I am from lauriefarrington.com. You can find me there. You can find both of us on all kinds of social media, whatever. You'll find all that information below. But what we would really appreciate you doing is subscribing, liking us, sharing us with people, and please leave comments. We love comments. Some of our videos, we get so many, we have a hard time keeping up with them, but we do try to respond. So also, thank you for being here. Thank you very much for being here. And is there anything that you've got going on right now that you want to talk about? I know your Gemini meditation will be up by then, won't it?
Yeah, that'll be up. You'll be able to take advantage of that. And I'm just, I have been putting together some very scheduling things, events and things like that. I think like yourself that I will be putting on my website into my newsletters. So check that out if you're interested. And Laura, you got stuff going on too, don't you? You got a class going on.
Yeah, well, I've got
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff going on, but really what I want to say to those of you that are watching this, if you've gone to my website has not had, yeah, it's been broken for quite a while. Go back. I think it's finally fixed, and you can sign up for the newsletter, and that's where you'll find all the information as well. So please do that. And yeah, I'm sorry, my website was broken for a time. I didn't even know it. So here we are at any rate. And do you want to talk a little bit about the phases of the moon? We're going to be talking about the full moon itself, the Sagittarius full moon. Do you want to just give us a brief primer on the phases of the moon?
Yeah, I mean, the full moon is the phase of the moon that everybody knows, when you see that big, bright, beautiful full moon in the sky, like, oh, it's full moon, super cool, and it's great, keep enjoying it, keep looking up at it because it's great. But the full moon is it's really the midpoint of the cycle because it really starts with the new moon 2 weeks before, where you have the moon right lined up with the sun so you don't see it. And then a week later, you get that beautiful half moon. And then 1 week later, so 2 weeks from the new moon, you're at your full moon where you have the culmination, this big bright moon up there in the sky, as I've already mentioned. And my cat has chosen to jump
Oh,
on my at this moment.
I love your
Um,
cat.
she's very cute. So after the full moon, that's like the closing half of the cycle, the waning half, where really you're having a chance to make the adjustments of whatever became illuminated to you at the full moon. You start kind of shifting and thinking, what do I need to change here? And then that kind of brings the cycle all the way down. That very last part, the waning half moon, is really the part about releasing and letting go and kind of letting things go to compost so that they can be fruitful for the next cycle. So I mean, in a nutshell, that's the cycle. It's a 4 week cycle. It is also true that you can use the longer cycles. You can use this as a year-long cycle where this is the Sagittarius full moon of the Sagittarius new moon that in this case happened on December 12th. So
Mm.
that gives you this longer perspective,
Mhm.
which is helpful because our life doesn't happen in 4 week increments. For the shorter cycle, though, I will say the new moon was May 7th. It was a new moon in Taurus, so we had a Taurus start to this the very different energy of the Sagittarius full moon. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So Sagittarius, what do you have to say about Sagittarius? Sagittarius is the mutable fire sign, right?
Mhm.
So what's your first thoughts when you think of Sagittarius? What are the first things that come to your mind?
I think about some of the archetypes because they have some good ones. Sagittarius is like the preacher.
Mhm.
Another one I really like is the explorer, that really kind of daredevil explorer type energy. And my third other one that I really like is the jester. So you're thinking about bringing in the optimism, the humor, the kind of the light touch. Sagittarius as a season comes in the winter, so it's kind of like this bright spark. And so right now we have this full moon in Sagittarius that is opposite Gemini, and it's bringing in that light touch. Yet there's a wisdom to it. There's a knowledge and a wisdom. But yeah, so that was kind of a jumble of things. But what do you have to add or What do you think of?
Well, yeah, I think about the wisdom of Sagittarius, and on the other side of it, all the signs have a really positive expression and a less positive expression. And, on the one hand, Sagittarius energy can really be so opinionated. I guess that's the harder side of Sagittarius, is being really what's the word I'm thinking of? Just
Tactless.
tactless and opinionated, and yeah, bigger than it should be. There,
Yeah.
Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is the largest planet, and it does bring that largesse. But on the other side of the growth potential, we come into the real wisdom of Sagittarius. And if I try to not say it, but every time Sagittarius comes up, I have to bring up that same old story that everybody that listens to us has probably heard more times than they want to hear it. But the centaur coming to a crossroad, and two signs in two directions. One sign says enlightenment, the other sign says Gary's party. And that to me just embodies Sagittarius. It's like the desire to reach enlightenment and the desire to just have a good time. And they kind of go hand in hand. For anyone with a strong Sagittarius in their charts, those things go hand in hand. And at the Sagittarius full moon, I think all of us at a Sagittarius full moon have to grapple with how we're going to manage it. Are we going to, go dance naked around a fire, or are we going to go sit on a meditation cushion? Which way are we going to get more perspective? Because Sagittarius really is about perspective, about experience and perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great words, and I think about, I remember like two key words for me are like the wit and the wisdom,
Mm.
that are similar, but as a good way to think about it. And I mean, on the most positive level, I mean, you kind of brought up the opinionated, the tactlessness, and just on the positive level, it's like Sagittarius is really just sharing that wisdom, in a way. And one of the great doorways for sharing wisdom is humor, is to keep it light, is to kind of slip in these really important lessons, but in a way that's approachable. And that's what humor brings. And humor is so important for all of us to allow ourselves to enjoy things about life. And Sagittarius is a fire sign, so it can be blustery, it can be quick, it can be quick tempered, but it's also very quick to change because it's mutable. So even if it does get heated, and it's going to change again really quickly, and that's both its gift and one of its challenges, is how quickly it can move. You're like, yesterday you were super opinionated about this, like now you're saying something opposite, and a Sagittarius person can really just take that in stride. And at a Sagittarius full moon, which is what we're going to focus on today, we really just want to think about how can we use the wisdom that it suggests? How can we use the humor that it suggests, the optimism? How can we shine a light and tell the story and bring people together through the sharing of these stories and the sharing of wisdom? And that's ultimately what we're going to talk about with a few extra nuances today. So,
All
yeah,
right. Okay. Are we ready to open the chart?
yeah. Let's check
Okay,
it
let's
out.
see. Here we have Sagittarius full moon, May 23rd, 2023.
Oops, 24.
Whoops. Oh my goodness. I
Yeah,
I don't know what to do about that. Oh well,
ignore it.
apparently
Everybody knows we're talking about 2024, so it's
I
okay.
think I made this in the middle of the night. Anyway, 9:53 a.m. It's so funny. I kept looking at this thinking I had the time wrong, and here I had the date wrong. Okay. At any
Right.
rate, hopefully, we're talking about 2024. So here is the chart of the moment.
Hmm.
And let's
Yeah.
see what
And
we see here.
I was gonna say that the first thing I think of when I see this is just simply like, look at what a different part of the chart the moon is in. It really is in a quite different sector of the chart. It is not, I mean, it's an opposition between the sun and the moon. This is what we're talking about. So it does oppose the sun. obvi. That's what a full moon is when the sun is directly opposite. So our sun is newly in Gemini at 2 degrees of Gemini. But there's a bunch of Taurus planets here in the mix that the moon also opposes. There's Venus in Taurus, there's Jupiter in Taurus in a tight conjunction here. And also, Jupiter's the ruling planet of the Sagittarius moon. So in the big geeky world of astrology, that's really exciting because that means that the planet that rules the Sagittarius moon is also in full view of the Sagittarius moon. So the moon is going, hey, Jupiter, like, how do I do this? And Jupiter is still in Taurus, but it's almost out of it. So there's something about Jupiter's about to make this transition. So it's a pretty exciting full moon because it kind of has a lot of energy to it because of that, because Jupiter's hanging on the edge of Taurus and it's just about ready to just be done with Taurus and move into Gemini.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that too. The fact that both Venus and Jupiter are just about to come into Gemini. It's going to be a big change. Jupiter
Yeah.
moving to Gemini is going to be a big change. And it sort of feels like this full moon is kind of heralding that change.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's worth just having a quick mention here that you can't help but ask, like, well, what was going on in Taurus before this? Because before this, you had Jupiter conjuncting Uranus, and it's moving away from that conjunction now, but it's still kind of within orb. So it's a little bit like there's been a big shakeup, earthquake, something. And I feel like Jupiter and Venus and Taurus they're kind of holding steady, like, whoa, we've just been through something. Whoa, okay, I'm just trying to get my ground. All right. And then when Jupiter and actually when both of them move into Gemini, it's going to be like, all right, now you can talk about it. Let's talk about the big shift that happened. Let's talk about how this has impacted our information systems and the way we want to tell stories about our experiences. I mean, that's kind of what is being, posed to us here, is what I keep thinking.
It's so interesting just to think about all the changes in the last, months, the big things that have been happening with Pluto doing its thing over there in Aquarius, newly in Aquarius, the eclipse happening in Aries, and then that big Uranus-Jupiter conjunction. And yeah, when Jupiter gets out of, I was going to say escape, but that sounds kind of negative. But when it gets out of Taurus and into Gemini, it really is like closing down one part of the story and offering let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we've been through. And I think that is a big message of what this full moon is. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we've included in all the individual pieces is the fact that Pluto is in a very tight sextile aspect to this full moon. And Pluto is now retrograde. It's really hanging out in the first little tiny piece of Aquarius. So we've all been going through something profound in wherever Aquarius is in our charts. And whatever that profound underground change that's happening is really supporting the illumination of wisdom and the illumination of the story that we're getting ready to tell.
Yes, I think it's important to just quickly talk about, so how does Aquarius and Sagittarius work together in a sextile? So we always talk about this as an opportunity, a sextile, and that means you have to take the opportunity. You have to be able to recognize it and take it, or decide not to, I suppose, would be another option. So that's one of the reasons I really like sextiles, because they ask you to draw two energies together and see what they make as an opportunity together. And in this case, in simple terms, I just think Aquarius is just like a new way of thinking about stuff, a new view. And the Sagittarius is like, and there's a wisdom in it. And it's as simple as that. So what is the new view that supports your ability to have wisdom in some area of your life on a simple level?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Just exactly what you said. Yeah, a new view, an innovative idea. It's a very intellectual sign, that Aquarius. And then that is bringing that. The opportunity is to bring that innovative new idea to this enthusiasm and wisdom that you're ready to bring forth.
Yeah, and it's elementally it's air and fire. So, the Aquarius is like the bellows on the fire. The new view invigorating the way that you want to share or perform some story or something like that. But so you can think about it elementally, and that really helps you understand, like just adding oxygen to the fire. And so we'll talk about that as the individual impacts. The one last thing I'd like to mention is just simply to remind you, we are in Gemini season. We've just made the Gemini video not too long ago, so make sure you watch that one. So in other words, like there's a whole season of doing Gemini work, and what the Gemini work is about is the power of your curiosity, is letting the curiosity drive you forwards into understanding what wisdom to share. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what we're saying here at this moment of time of the full moon, is recognizing that. So
I think that's one of the things that I love about Gemini is that ability to get curious. And I always think about Elizabeth Gilbert talking about, I think it was her talking about, how people are always ready to tell each other, oh, follow your passion and all that, but not everybody has access to, an understanding of what their passion or what their direction is, but everyone can follow their curiosity because everyone can just feel that bubbling curiosity. And if you follow curiosity, you'll always find yourself going someplace pretty interesting and learning new things.
That's a really great story to share, like at the Sagittarius full moon, because it is leading you to the fire, which is the passion.
Yeah.
So, pay attention to your curiosity and allow that to ignite the fire that the full moon in Sagittarius represents.
Yeah.
That's the perfect story to think about, and to kind of give you a little pathway of like, well, how do I access that passion? If you're not sure, you follow that curiosity, and it will follow one way or another. Like you will find yourself ignited or lit up by something that strikes you as important or exciting or fun or adventurous, or any of the Sagittarius keywords. Humorous.
Humorous. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on, and we will start with folks who have Aries rising.
So magical. All right. So, all right, Aries rising. So those of you with Aries rising, the Sagittarius full moon is going to be landing in your 9th house. The 9th house it's kind of akin to Sagittarius in a way. It's the place of your wisdom. It's the place of your worldview and your perspective and the philosophy that you develop. So this full moon is shining a light right into that area, and it's asking you, what is your philosophy? What is your worldview? Where can you bring more wit and wisdom into the way that you share the experiences you have here? That's kind of what the full moon's bringing up. It is during Gemini season, as we've mentioned, so there is some need to be curious about the way that you communicate, your worldview. So that's part of that. That's the polarity between the sun and the moon. And then the other piece that we've chosen to bring here as one of our favorite star players right now, which is Pluto, because, as we mentioned in the previous part, Pluto is in a sextile with the moon. So we really want to focus on the opportunity that's being brought to you by, essentially, in a nutshell, having a new perspective. I mean, both these things together, it's like, what are you learning? What is changing in your community that is allowing you to have a whole new perspective, a whole new worldview? And that's kind of the question to ask yourself during the full moon, is what new perspective is coming about, and how is that connected to my community? I mean, that's basically it. I mean, Laurie, what do you have to add here?
Well, I keep thinking about that, Pluto being newly in Aquarius, really, although now it is retrograde, but it's newly in Aquarius. So that area of community, which is the 11th house, is such a place of powerful, profound change. And sort of, we were thinking about it as an area where we are unearthing something, or just shedding some old ideas or opinions, or maybe a community itself. There's something that's being shed there. And, one of the things that I love about this sextile is that Pluto can often do what it does in a pretty difficult way. Not always. I mean, its job is to empower, but it often can do it in a way that's quite challenging, especially early on when it's first in a sign. So, if you have experienced real difficulties as you're shedding old ideas about community, this moment in time offers an opportunity to really see the gift of it, the gift of following your, kind of taking that, whatever that shift is, the work that you've done in recent months on changing your community is really what is offering a gift, an opportunity for you to see the world in a new way, to, open up your perspective, that ninth house perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, think about how does your community and how do your worldview connect? And
Yeah.
what is the opportunity that is occurring between those two things? That's the real way to think about this, because it's up to
And
you to kind of work with your own life
right.
in those departments and see what's available.
Yeah. What's the opportunity between those two houses that is being fueled by your curiosity around communication? Or it could be being fueled by your neighborhood, stuff going on in your neighborhood. That's another third house thing, or issues with siblings, whatever. It's really very simple to think of it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
So let's move on to folks who have Taurus rising. If you've got Taurus rising, this puts this Sagittarius full moon in the polarity between your second and eighth house. The moon itself, the full moon, is in your eighth house. So this is really illuminating your, let's think, eighth house is really where we navigate difficult situations with other people, deep issues that other people carry, other people's baggage. There's different ways you can think about that, but it's really an area where if you've got Taurus rising, you tend to have more of a perspective on other people's values. And this is really allowing you to see that, allowing you to see your abilities to set boundaries, to navigate other people's issues. And that is coming up because this is Gemini season. We want to think about the second house down here where the sun is. And this is where right now during Gemini season, and watch the Gemini season video, there's a lot of curiosity here. Curiosity around your own values, around money, resources, how you value yourself. So there's that issue that is illuminating, that is it's like the curiosity in that area of money, resources, and self-worth is showing you the wisdom that you bring to your ability to navigate other people's stuff. That's really what the full moon is. Now, the Pluto piece, bringing in Pluto, you want to think about what profound change has been and is bubbling up and happening, some profound, innovative, new ideas coming to you around career, around social reputation. It may be a real difficult place. There may be really challenging changes going on in that area of your life. But at this time, with this full moon, those challenges, that shift and change in your career or social reputation is offering an opportunity for you to see even more clearly, for you to take on, some opportunity is offered around that gift of wisdom and enthusiasm that you can bring to navigating other people's boundaries, other people's stuff. So, watch for opportunities. There may be something really direct here involving, an opportunity coming through your work that puts you in a position where you can really, really understand the wisdom and enthusiasm you bring to navigating other people's difficulties.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool, even though it might be hard, it's kind of cool to have a fire sign in the eighth house. It's kind of like bringing this, and Sagittarius is a lantern. So, as a Taurus rising person, it's almost like you have this extra little bit of light, this lantern of both wisdom, but also of humor to bring to other people's challenging, irritating, frustrating stuff that you have to deal with, that everybody has to deal with. So I think it's like using that tool in the toolbox, like that tool of humor to kind of
Mm.
approach this challenging area of life with a lighter touch, as possible. That's kind of what this full moon is showing. It's showing you that you have the tools to do this, because you always have Sagittarius there in your eighth house. It's really lighting that up for you. And I just, yeah, I really just like you've really talked well about the opportunity between Pluto and the moon, and it's just thinking about the connection between the career and the other people's stuff.
Mhm.
And there's no way that you can have any kind of public life or professional life or whatever your life is in public without stumbling into other people's baggage, without your own baggage, stumbling into other people's baggage, and having things be complicated and difficult. And you put money in the mix. Wow, you're really, getting complicated. So it's really helpful to have Sagittarius here. And the full moon is shining a light into the way you can harness that tool of
Mm.
or tools of wisdom and humor to make this, well, really to empower your professional life.
Mhm.
I mean, that's essentially what you're trying to do here. So that's what to think about in my mind during this full moon. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really interesting. I like this combination. I think this is a great full moon. Okay, let's move on to folks who have Gemini rising.
Okay. So Gemini rising, Gemini rising people present as naturally curious. It might also be somebody who is wants to communicate and have that be really important, but just show up as a pretty curious person. So, what the Sagittarius full moon is lighting up for you is the opposite area of life, which is other, your partners. This could be your marriage partner, but it also is any one-on-one situation. Anytime you're sitting down or going on a walk with a friend and you're in a one-on-one dialogue, that is going to be a seventh house space. So you have a lot of wisdom to offer people that you are in partnership with. And you also are able to gain a lot of wisdom through your partnerships. And that's what this full moon is highlighting. The Sagittarius full moon is sort of illuminating this part of yourself that does really well in these partnerships, that has a lot of enthusiasm, positivity, optimism, and wisdom, and maybe a big fat opinion as well. But those are the things that are showing up during the full moon. Um, Lori and I have also included Pluto in these charts. I mean, we've been talking about Pluto a lot because it really does represent empowerment. And at this particular full moon, there was an empowering opportunity available to you to take advantage of. You have to be aware that there's an opportunity, which is hopefully why you're watching this video. And then you have to decide you want to take that opportunity. And what this opportunity for you here is about is the way that your worldview is impacted by your relationships and vice versa. You've had Pluto in your ninth house, like blowing the top off something to do with your philosophy. It's asking you to shed something old that just doesn't work for you anymore, in a much longer, slower process. And because of that shedding, there is a new opportunity to disperse wisdom through your partnership.
Mhm.
There's something about those two areas of life, the seventh and the ninth together, that are working in tandem, that are presenting you the opportunity to try out a new skill set in this department, to kind of look at how do these two things relate to each other. Um, and then the final thing I'll say is also just like we are in Gemini season. So I started this conversation here about curiosity, and curiosity is your guide during the entirety of Gemini season. Be curious about yourself and your own opinions, and be curious about how you are showing up in your partnerships. And that's kind of it. I mean, that's what's happening here. So
I think you covered everything beautifully. I just love seeing how these are playing together, and it is so much. This is a really beautiful one. thinking about, yeah, what you are navigating and changing in your worldview and how that's impacting your relationship, how it can in this moment. I mean, this full moon is just a moment, but it really illuminates how much change has been going on in your worldview and how it's supportive of and supported by your personal intimate partnerships. It's really beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move on to folks who have Cancer rising. I know a few of these people. Okay, so at this full moon, we have just begun, really, we're just a little bit into the Gemini season. You might want to watch our video on the Gemini season. So first of all, let's think about the polarity between the sun and the moon here. First, we're looking at the sun. It's Gemini season. There's a lot of curiosity going on during Gemini season because that's one of the big issues with Gemini. And it's in your 12th house if you have Cancer rising. So this would really suggest that there's a lot of curiosity and interest and, just gathering information about your own internal kind of hidden behind the scenes area of your psychology, your spiritual understanding. That's the 12th house there. So there's a lot of curiosity going on in that area. And at this full moon, that curiosity is really reflecting itself onto the moon in Sagittarius in your 6th house. So this would really be illuminating how much wisdom and enthusiasm and humor you can bring to and receive from your day-to-day practices, your healthcare practices, how you eat, how you, feed yourself, how you exercise, how long you spend on the meditation cushion, or whatever your day-to-day routines are. There's some element of the exploration that you're internally doing that's really reflecting the wisdom of your routines. Now, we have included Pluto here because Pluto is in a very, very close sextile aspect to this full moon. And a sextile aspect brings a possibility, a opportunity. It's not an automatic gift. It's not a big challenge. It's an opportunity. We have to pay attention to opportunities, which is one of the reasons it's really fun to bring sextiles into these conversations because we do need to pay attention and think about them. So with Pluto newly in Aquarius, it's in your 8th house and it is really rooting around and changing in a profound way, showing you how you have to shed some old ideas of how you navigate other people's baggage, other people's difficulties. How do you navigate those things? And at this time, so that's what's been going on with Pluto. At this moment for this full moon, that change, that internal understanding of how to navigate other people, what you've been through, the work you've been doing in that area is offering an opportunity for you to see the wisdom of your routines and be able to bring that wisdom to others as well. So it's a two-way street, that opportunity, how your day-to-day routines and the wisdom of them can support this change in how you're navigating other people and vice versa. What do you have to add to this? I know this is one you've probably thought about.
Well, I've just been thinking about the sextile that you're still explaining there, and it's like, yeah, I think the key word that comes to mind here is there's a sense of liberation. Like as submit yourself to this process of restructuring your boundaries and how you deal with other people, it's liberates this energy that is now available to you to use in your daily routines. I mean, for me, I have Cancer rising, but I think anybody with Cancer rising, there's a need for adventure. There is a need for fun and humor in your daily routines. There's a need, the other thing that a fire sign brings up is the need for the mythic, like the symbolic. So there's something about bringing in that kind of fun adventure into your daily routines. So, whether that's beating on your drum, in the morning, or whether that's doing something adventurous, like for me, like I love to mountain bike, there's an adventure quality to it. So there's something about the way these two work together that is liberating some energy that allows you to, seize the
Mm,
moment in a new way in
mm,
your routines. And remember, your routines are there to support your health. You do those things to maintain health. They're preventative health, healthcare routines,
mm,
really is what you're doing. So it's that. And part of it for you is you need to have some fire, some light, some humor in order to keep things flowing and fun.
mm.
So that's part of it. And then you've already mentioned, but just the curiosity of the behind the scenes stuff that Gemini season represents. It's like, be curious about your own baggage. Like, be curious about your stuff. Be curious about what you're holding and carrying, what you need to communicate about with others. This is just a lot of really fruitful stuff in there. So
Yeah, there really is. And, obviously, if there's a sextile to one end of an opposition, there's a trine to the other. And it's just interesting thinking about that connection as you're curious about your own stuff, and Pluto, meanwhile, really changing your view and your perspective on other people's baggage. So they kind of really support each other. That's lovely
yeah,
to
it
see.
makes sense, right? Really.
Yeah, it's just so practical. It's an interesting language, this astrology thing, isn't it? Okay, let's move on to folks who have Leo rising.
Okay, so those of you with Leo rising, nice bright shiny fire sign there as a rising sign, which means that it's your bright shiny fifth house that's being illuminated by Sagittarius, the Sagittarius full moon. I mean, the fifth house is just such a lovely place. I mean, it's really about your self-expression. It's an extension of your sense of self. And here it's the way you just express yourself with joy, with creativity, with generosity, with the ability to be playful, yet also be willing to take risks. So that's what the full moon is illuminating, is that really sort of joyous place in your life. And that's really nice. I really like that. Again, we're talking about a full moon. So we've made a video about Gemini season. And in that Gemini season video, we talked about curiosity, and we talked about what is showing up in your community as a Leo rising person, because you've got the sun in the 11th house of community. And that's generating a great deal of excitement, communication, again, that great word of curiosity. So notice what is shifting in your community that's feeling, exciting, and that's stimulating new mental growth, and then let that shine a light into, well, what wisdom do you have to share? Like, what wisdom do you have to share about joy and playfulness and generosity? Like, because you are uniquely positioned to really share that energy in a lovely way.
Mhm.
Um, so that's kind of the picture of the full moon. And then, Lori and I have decided to include Pluto. I kind of feel like I have to say once again, because we have included it a lot. But we really like about this picture is how Pluto is in a sextile with the moon. It presents an opportunity for you. And just remember that opportunities are something that you have to be able to see and recognize and decide that you're going to take advantage of. And if you do that, there's a lot available. Pluto represents empowerment. So there's a real empowerment available for you if you can take the opportunity that the sextile represents.
Mhm.
Um, and what this opportunity has for you, something to do with your partnerships. Is something you're shedding or changing or restructuring that has to do with the way that you handle your partnerships. And that is the thing that is allowing you to embrace joy in a new way, or embrace humor in a new way. There's some connection. So think about your own life and think about, what is the connection for you here? What's the connection between your partnerships and your creativity? And when I say partnerships, I really mean any one-on-one connection. So what is the ways that the way you're doing one-on-one connections there's something new about it. How is that impacting the way you're giving of yourself at the Sagittarius full moon? That's what you want to ask yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the opportunity? Is your partner offering you an opportunity? Is this new way of understanding what partnership is or what it's going to be going forward? You know, Pluto going into the seventh house. For some of you listening to this with Leo rising, this may be a really challenging process. You know, Pluto going into the seventh house can be quite difficult. Not necessarily, but it certainly can be. But there is some profound change going on in your relationship. And you want to really pay attention around this full moon to how that change, how your new way of understanding yourself in partnership, how that is bringing forth some excitement around creativity or children. You know, it could have to do with children as well in that fifth house. So you want to, yeah, just like Jenny said, think about the curiosity around your community. Think about how that is feeding your creativity. Think about how the profound changes in your relationship are offering an opportunity to expand that creativity as well.
Yeah. One last piece I just want to add between the fifth and the seventh is the fifth is lovers and the seventh is partners. So
Right.
also think about that could be something in your life that's connected. So at some point, if you have a lover, you often make a change to them being a partner. And I suppose you could think about spicing up your partnership by saying, "Hey, let's be lovers again." So just add that into the mix, in case
Right.
that
Yeah. I
came.
mean, the fifth house can be, yeah, so much about play and playfulness. And yeah, there's some opportunity there. So
Yeah.
pay attention to the profound changes in the relationship and how they are offering an opportunity to play in a new way or experience creativity or fun. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to folks who have Virgo rising. So if you have Virgo rising, the full moon is um, encompassing the polarity between the 10th and the fourth house. So we made a video, and if you haven't watched it yet, you might want to go back and watch the video that we made about the Gemini season. Because this, you know, the full moon here happens just shortly into Gemini season, and the sun in the 10th house is really suggesting a lot of curiosity around your social reputation, what it is, what it can be, you know, just a lot of curiosity around your social reputation or your career, your vocational path. That's where the light is coming from that is shining on the full moon, which is in your fourth house. So you want to think about that polarity. The fourth house is home. It's your you know, the where you live, the land you live on. It's your home. It's your ancestral line, your family of origin, the family that you've created, all of that. So there's some way in which the curiosity about your outer expression is shining a light on bringing more optimism, maybe more positive energies to your home and family or what you can create there. Meanwhile, you have been for a period of time now, you've been in the midst of this profound change, this really big change in how you manage your life on just the day-to-day level of your healthcare, your how you take care of yourself, whether it be how you take care of your job, how you take care of your body, your health, whatever. The profound changes in that area of your life are really offering an opportunity. The sextile represents an opportunity. We can ignore our opportunities, and that's one of the reasons that Jenny and I like bringing sextiles into these conversations, because we want to shine a light on those opportunities. Because we don't want to miss opportunities. And an opportunity coming from Pluto is kind of a big deal, because Pluto, you know, whereas you can think of it in all different ways, but bottom line, what Pluto wants is to empower us. So Pluto here, the empowerment of your day-to-day routines, supporting your enthusiastic understanding or humor around family or home. There's some opportunity going on there.
Mhm.
Huh. I can see how this could work out.
You want to share?
Well, I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just thinking.
Last time I
Thinking
thought
about different ways.
Yeah, like it is interesting seeing the Gemini at the top of the chart, like, hey, I'm gonna tell everybody this thing. And then what this full moon is representing is the wisdom to be shared. And it's interesting having the wisdom to be shared in the most private house in the chart, because the fourth, it's the lowest chart in the whole, it's the most tucked away in that way, like it's very, very private. But I was thinking, but what also comes from the fourth house is wisdom that is transferred through your lineage, like there's ancestral knowledge that comes through here. And I could see how with the empowerment from Pluto that at this full moon, you may become aware of some wisdom that you're like, where's this coming from? And it's coming from something beyond you. And you can look at that as like your past lives, if you believe that. But you also can look at it as genetics and your ancestral lineage. It doesn't really, but that the idea that there is a universal almost channel coming to you,
Mm,
from this like this private place,
mm,
so as you sit at home in your meditation cushion, that this wisdom comes up and that you're ready to share that through your Gemini position up there in the 10th house. So there's
mm,
something about that. It kind of brought for me the deeper layer of what the Sagittarius in the fourth house might represent,
mm,
and also handling those things with humor. I mean, gosh, even in the darkest times of humanity's history, humor is the thing that can bring a light like nothing else. I mean, even in the worst times, there is that common bond that can be shared through humor. So I don't know. Those are just some of the kind of the deeper, like more tucked away layers that this brought to mind for me.
Is that why I have one family member that every time I talk to her, I can't stop laughing?
Yes, I love it. That's awesome.
Seriously,
Yes, like coming through that, right? Through
seriously.
the
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
Yeah, and she'll listen to this too, and she'll laugh when she hears it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to folks who have Libra rising.
Okay, so those of you with Libra rising, a nice even keeled sign is your rising sign.
Mhm.
You have this full moon landing right in your third house. So what this is doing is it's showing you the wisdom that you have available through your voice, or maybe your humor. The fact that,
Mm,
this definitely could be the chart of somebody who knows how to share things through humor, who knows how to do comedy. Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Sagittarius is a fire sign, so this is shining a light. This is like lighting the lantern of that for the benefit of not just yourself, but others. So there's something to that this full moon's illuminating. Now we made a Gemini season video a little while ago, so it wasn't very long ago. And we talked about the way that the sun moving into Gemini was lighting up the house that refers to your wisdom, that illuminates, the way that you think about the world, your worldview, your philosophy, the way you think for yourself, your critical thinking, the way your experiences lead you to thinking for yourself. And what's cool about your chart is that you've got that principle of curiosity, which I can't think of a single better thing to lead your way in
Mm,
whatever your worldview is. And that you can just share that stuff right through your voice, like right through the wisdom of Sagittarius. So that's what the full moon's illuminating. It's really showing you this way that you can communicate about world issues
mm,
in a wonderful way. And that's the short of it. Um, Laurie and I have also included Pluto in these charts. There's a lot that Pluto has been stirring up lately. And in this case, we included it because there's a very tight sextile to the moon. And it's representing an opportunity for you. And this opportunity has something to do with your creativity, because Pluto is in your fifth house. It's going to be there for a couple more decades. So you're really in the beginning of a process of transforming who you are as a creative person,
mm,
transforming the way you give of yourself into something totally new and different. And that is kind of, in this moment of the full moon, is clearing the way for you to share of yourself, like share the wisdom you're gaining from those creative pursuits. I mean, this is a pretty awesome one, because the third and the fifth house, they work really nicely together. I mean, this is like bringing all the warmth of your generosity and your love, and you know, the way that you want to pour yourself into some gift for the world, is informing and providing an opportunity for the way you use your voice. You know, so this is a great moment for you to speak about something that's on your mind, about the way you want to give of yourself. That's really what this is bringing up. So take advantage of it.
Yeah, it feels to me like there's a suggestion in here of, yeah, the creativity that you can bring to your voice.
Mm,
You know, with Pluto just newly in, you know, just kind of rooting around in that fifth house, like, what is it that we are going to change in regards to the creativity? And this moment brings up, okay, the opportunity of using that creativity through your voice. You know,
mm,
for
mhm,
those of you with Libra rising, I would sit down and do some writing.
mm,
Write a little bit, you know, use humor, use your voice, use your understanding of the greater outer world, whatever it is. Use your curiosity about your worldview, use your voice and bring your creativity to it. There's something in there that could just spark, you know, with Pluto, like you said, it's going to be in that area for a few decades here. You want to, you know, use your curiosity to figure out exactly what that new form of creativity is developing within you. And it, you know, this is a moment to look at that positive, and I love the humor, the humorous voice that you have. And I'm thinking of someone specific here too, who has a really interesting sense of humor.
and I was thinking as you're bringing it up, a really, yes, like a good use of this might be, maybe it's time to enroll in that improv class or that comedy
Yeah,
class, you
exactly.
know, or another thing that came up for me is it could also be, it could potentially be like singing, or, you know, I mean, there's other, whatever ways come to your mind about what are creative uses of your voice, and that it's a way, an outlet, it's a therapeutic outlet for you to give of yourself. I mean, that's what, you know, comes to mind. So yeah, I like that suggestion you made, Lori, of just like really kind of getting clear about, you know, what that is. Is there something you've always wanted to do, a way to express yourself? And this might be the
And
moment.
you know, if there's
You know?
something really deep and intense in that fifth house, children, love affairs, creativity, if there's something really deep and intense, work it out through your voice. Work it out through, yeah, taking on a I love the idea of doing an improv with this. Yeah, that's awesome.
Pretty
Okay,
fun.
let's move on to folks who have Scorpio rising. Okay, if you've got Scorpio rising, if you haven't listened to our Sagittarius season video, you might want to do that. We talk a lot about, obviously, I said Sagittarius season, I meant Gemini season. Excuse me. Uh, I'm looking at the Sagittarius full moon thinking season, but our video on Gemini season, but you know, this is where the light comes to the Sagittarius full moon from Gemini. So we want to think about that for you with Scorpio rising, this is in the polarity of houses between the second and the eighth house. The Gemini sun is passing through your eighth house. So you can think about this as this is an area where you've got a lot of curiosity. There's a lot of curiosity around how you navigate other people's issues, other people's stuff, other people's money, resources, baggage, etc. There's a lot in that. So as you're navigating that curiosity, this moment in time of this full moon really shines a light on your own values, your own use and management of money, resources, your own self-worth. So you want to think about that as a polarity, one shining a light on the other, showing you how your curiosity around other people supports your enthusiasm and your ability to bring humor and positive energy to yourself, to your own self-worth. In the midst of this, you know, Jennie and I decided to bring Pluto in again. I know we've talked about it in a few other recent videos. But Pluto's such an important planet right now, newly in Aquarius. And at this full moon, it is making a really, really tight sextile aspect to the moon. We also love to bring in sextiles because sextiles are a really positive aspect. They offer opportunities, possibilities that we can easily ignore or not notice. And so Jenny and I like to shine a light on it and say, okay, you want to pay attention to this opportunity that is being offered. So to think about what that opportunity is, you want to think about over recent months with Pluto newly in Aquarius in your fourth house, there is some profound shift and change that has been and continues to be happening in the area of your home, your family, your ancestral line, whatever it is. There's some deep, powerful change that you've been trying to figure out how to work with. There's some way in which you're shedding some old beliefs or ideas around home, family, etc. No matter how difficult that may be or have been, the process itself is related to this full moon in that process of change in your family is offering an opportunity for you to really embrace and see even more clearly that illumination of your own self-worth. So the new understanding of home and family is offering an opportunity for you to see yourself more clearly.
Nice. Yeah, I think, yeah, I just encourage you to think about for yourself. What are those two areas for you? You know, what's the connection between the fourth and the second? Because that's where the opportunity lies. And, you know, the opportunity is in your own life, you know, so it's like kind of wielding these two areas of life or wielding your energy within those and just determining what's the potential for an opportunity, you know, and it really is about, just as Laurie has said, the shedding of whatever the thing is that has to do with your family identity, your family, you know, narrative or familial patterns. You know, it is about, and then seeing kind of how does that, what's the ripple effect into suddenly being able to see your value. Like there might be, like you haven't been able to see your value. I feel like almost every single one of my clients is like, there's you know, a struggle with self-worth. You know,
Yeah.
I've got my own struggles with it. I think it's a common thing. So this is a great opportunity to kind of really recognize the resources that you as a person have to offer, and you know, and you have to offer that through the wisdom, the wit, the storytelling that Sagittarius has in your second house. So it's I mean, it's great being a Scorpio rising person, which is so intense and going underneath and into the deep realms, you know, and then you can bring this like Sagittarius light to this
Mhm.
other place in your life. Like you can really use that as your own value system, how you value yourself, what resources you have to offer others. So yeah, I hope that you take advantage of it. I mean, that's really the question to ask yourself. How are you able to value yourself, and can you do that with a light touch, a sense of humor, and recognize your inherent wisdom? And yeah,
Yeah.
easy task, right? No problem.
Right, easy task, no problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
this could have something to do with inheritance too.
Oh, yeah, it sure could. So
Right.
yeah, apply it to your own life.
Yeah, apply it to your own life. It could bring in a lot of different things, but yeah,
Mhm.
what is it that the big change in your home family? That's
Yeah,
a
the
big one.
discovery or the
Yeah.
shedding or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
shedding or discovering something you didn't know about your family. That's so important here. Okay, before I go down a rabbit hole, let's move on to folks with Sagittarius rising. So if
Okay,
you have,
those of you, what's that?
oh, I'm sorry, I was going to just blast into it, but it's your turn.
Okay. So those of you with Sagittarius rising, well, guess what? This big bright full moon is landing right in your first house. The first house, the house of self, the place where you need to develop self-awareness, you know, the understanding that As a Sagittarius rising person, that you are on an adventure, you're on a journey, you're out in the world, navigating the terrain and learning things from it and gaining wisdom and hopefully handling it all with a wonderful sense of humor.
Mm.
That would be ideal. So that's what this full moon is illuminating straight up. It is shining a light on this, part of your identity that is Sagittarian. Meanwhile, we are in the midst, or early on actually, in Gemini season, which is doing the opposite thing. It's by definition, the sun opposite the moon, shining a light on the moon. And so that is happening in your seventh house of relationships. So there's something, I don't know, I keep thinking about the insistence on communication in your relationships, like how important it is to be able to communicate with, whoever you are in one-on-one connection with. Like that's going to be a very important factor as a Sagittarius rising person. So this full moon is highlighting that. It's highlighting that fact. It's letting you know, like, that you really do value this stuff. You find it extremely important to be able to talk, and then to, be wise and have some humor about it. That's the kind of the short, or maybe too long, summary of it. And then in the meantime, we have Pluto on this chart. We have talked about Pluto at length. Its ability to help you transform, also the challenges it presents, because it often demands that you shed something. And what you are shedding here, according to where Pluto is in your chart, is something to do with the way you communicate. You're having to do something new, and it could be communication with a sibling or relative. It could be something in your neighborhood too that is really putting some pressure on you, to find a new way. And that is in this lovely sextile with the full moon. So there's an opportunity here that links your sense of self with the way you communicate. So as you do this work, as you shed whatever it is that needs to be shed around your communication, it's going to allow you to step, more, deeply or more joyfully, into your Sagittarius self. I mean, that's how the two connect. And again, remember, the full moon is just one moment in time. So it's sort of harnessing this moment to see that, and to possibly take some sort of action on it, or just to be enjoying the awareness of yourself as the Sagittarian person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think, I look at this and I just think, as you were talking, it's like the importance of communication in your relationships. And at the same time, this profound change in how you use your voice, or how you understand, the way you have used your voice, how you are somehow shedding some old habits around communication. Well, this really does offer this moment to really look at how those things relate, how your enthusiastic personality may have been letting a partner off the hook, even though communication is so important to you in partnership. And this offers the opportunity of, no, this is important to me. Just an example, this is important to me. And now I see that the changes that are happening, the shedding of old ideas about how I communicate, have not necessarily supported me in the past. But now that this new way of communicating is starting to come into view, I can get my relationship focus more in line with what's necessary.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it like that, because it is reminding me sometimes the first house is something we can't see very easily about ourselves. It's like trying to look at the nose on your face without a mirror. You can kind of see it, but kind of not. So the full moon is showing you something you normally can't see, which is very helpful about all those topics you just mentioned. So yeah, that was great. Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
that's a good one. That's really interesting. Okay, so we're going to move on now to folks with Capricorn rising. So if you've got Capricorn rising, the full moon falls across the polarity between your 12th house and your 6th house. The 6th house is holding the sun. The sun has recently moved into Gemini. We did do a Gemini season video quite recently. You might want to listen to that one as well. But in this moment of the full moon, that energy of the sun, which is in your 6th house, it's really bringing up for you a real curiosity about the importance and the manner that you manage your day-to-day routines, whether that be your, your health care, how you feed yourself, how you exercise, how you meditate, or, all the things that make up the day-to-day routines of our lives, the routines of our jobs. Yeah, the routines that support our lives. So that's where there's a lot of curiosity during Gemini season. And at this moment, with this full moon, that curiosity is shining a light on the moon in the 12th house. So it's shining a light and showing you this kind of gift of lightness and enthusiasm, this Sagittarius in your 12th house. It's interesting because the 12th house is behind the scenes. It's kind of a hidden area. It's an area where, we kind of navigate our unconscious ideas and beliefs and our spiritual understanding in that area. So at this moment, that curiosity about your routines is showing you some way in which you really have the gift of kind of a lightness in that hidden area. Now, that's interesting. And, we've talked about Pluto a lot with a bunch of different videos, but we've included it here as well because it's in this delightful little sextile aspect to the moon. It's a very close sextile, and sextiles are such wonderful aspects. It's a 60-degree angle between the two planets that represents opportunities, possibilities, but they're so easy to ignore. We're busy, we're running through our lives. It's easy to not pay attention to the opportunities that a sextile brings, which is one of the reasons Jennie and I like to bring them in, because it gives you an opportunity to think, okay, what is the possibility, the opportunity that I can grasp hold of at this full moon? So the opportunity here for you with Capricorn rising comes out of this profound change that is underway, that is happening around your self-worth. It could show up in terms of money or resources, but there's some way in which your understanding of money, resources, and your own self-worth, there's some way in which you are shedding old ideas, and that can be a very painful process. But you're shedding old ideas about who you are and what you're worth and what kind of, what you should or could do with what money you do or don't have. There's all that. There's a shedding of old ideas that's happening, and something in that new story that is beginning to come into clarity, just beginning. But there's something in that new storyline that is offering you a glimpse and an opportunity to really see that inner wisdom, that inner kind of hidden away wisdom that you hold. It's really a beautiful thing, I think. People with Capricorn rising come into the world, there's such a seriousness about them. And yet, in that deepest hidden area of who they are, they've got Sagittarius, which is so optimistic. And, you can really bring a sense of optimism and even humor to your own internal hidden processes. And that's what this is really showing you in some way.
Yeah, it's just like being able to laugh at the human condition,
Right.
you know?
Perfect.
Just yeah, because this one for me, I just see there's a lot of therapeutic potential in this one. Like just the sixth and the sixth house, the 12th house, and the second house. I mean, geez, these all have to do with, your healing, how you care for yourself, how you deal with your mental health, your physical health. And then the second house brings in the need to value yourself as a person, to cherish and value yourself. And that's what is, going through this transformation. And like Laurie says, yeah, that can be a can be an unpleasant process, but it also can be a liberating process. It just depends, like, what other things might be in your natal chart or what have you. But anyway, just I think as a whole, this one seems pretty therapeutic to me, and just to use humor in a therapeutic way. I mean, I think it's always therapeutic, but specifically here to release whatever those subconscious patterns that the full moon is popping into view for you, the things you don't normally get to see. And I mean, that's kind of what this full moon represents, is what can you see in the 12th house that you're normally not going to be able to easily see. It's always just kind of behind you and you're like, whatever. And this is saying, hey, no, take a look at it because there's something fruitful here. There's something very important about the gift you have to offer others, the light of wisdom you have to offer others. So anyway, that's kind of what came to mind for me.
That's great. I love it that you brought all of that in. And I love that you brought in the liberation of Pluto in that second house. Pluto does a lot. And it's for empowerment and liberation. You might go through some tough gates to get there, but that's what it's doing. It is really liberating your ability to understand your own worth. That's really beautiful. Okay, let's move on to folks with Aquarius rising.
Okay, so those of you with Aquarius rising, yeah, I can't help to say right off the bat, you've got Pluto there in the first house. So every time we've talked about Pluto recently, we've probably gone into a long diatribe about how much profound change this is bringing folks with Aquarius rising, because this is fundamentally transforming the sort of whole direction your life is pointed in. It's showing you a new way, it's showing you a new view. So let me just throw that out there because I can't help but avoid that. And then I'll talk more about how it ties in at this full moon. So the full moon is landing in your 11th house of community. So it's really showing, in the simplest possible way, that you have a lot of wisdom to offer your community. And maybe part of that wisdom is about you allowing your community to support you, so that you can really be held up in that group and be able to share your wisdom, and hopefully being able to do that with a lot of humor and just bringing light to people in the community. I mean, that's essentially what the Sagittarius full moon is showing you. We are in Gemini season. So when we made our Gemini season video, we talked about how the sun is in your 5th house and how the sun is really just igniting the curiosity in your 5th house of how you give of yourself, how you give love to others. The 5th house is an extension of your self because it's self-expression. That's how you express yourself. So this involves creative pursuits, recreational pursuits. Sometimes it can involve children, but more of the kind of playful aspect of children,
Right.
and generosity. Yeah, not the heavier. I think that would be more 4th house. But anyway, that's what the Gemini season is asking you to, take a look at. And then this moment in time at the Sagittarius full moon is showing you the wisdom you have to offer. And then back to that Pluto, that transformation of self is playing right into this idea that, wow, maybe you've never thought about yourself as being able to be a wise person in your community. And this is giving you that moment of time to be like, holy smokes, like I have what it takes for that. And like I have something to offer, and I'm doing my work. I'm doing my work on myself. I'm letting go of whatever's been holding me back on a personal level. Like that's what Pluto represents. And it's liberating you to see your ability to kind of offer this bright, shining, optimistic light of your vision. So that's like that's kind of maybe a little bit of a rosy picture because things can be challenging too, where Pluto is. But nonetheless, that's the potential, the seed potential of this moment in time. So, yeah.
I love this one. I love thinking about this. And I do have a friend who has this that I'm thinking of as we're looking at it. And just that, yeah, who can I be in a creative manner? Who can I be? And really, yeah, being able to see that you are a wise individual that can bring something amazing to your community. And I'm just saying exactly what you said. I don't know why I feel the need to repeat it. But it just, yeah, the profound change, that liberation, which may feel really difficult at times as Pluto has just, gone into that first house. You might be going through some painful times of inner, really change on who you are. And yet the gift of that is what you can see in this moment, the gift of how much you are changing your understanding of yourself, allowing you to see the wisdom you can bring to your community. That's just beautiful. I love that. And we'll go on to the next one.
Okay.
Folks with Pisces rising. Okay, if you've got Pisces rising, this full moon is encompassing the polarity between the 4th house and the 10th house. If you haven't watched our Gemini season video, you might want to do that. Gemini, the sun has been in Gemini for a short period of time at the time of this full moon, but we want to think about that because the full moon is being illuminated by the sun in Gemini. So with the sun being in the 4th house, what you want to think about the curiosity that you currently are, just the curiosity about home, about family, about your ancestral line, the land you live on, whatever it is, there's some curiosity that's developing in that area that is really reflecting and showing you the wisdom and humor that you can bring to your career or social reputation. That 10th house, the career, social reputation area of your chart, is what's being illuminated by that sun. So the illumination is on your career and your social reputation. Now, we've included Pluto here, as we have in several videos, because it's so prominent right now, newly in Aquarius. And Pluto is making a sextile aspect to that moon, a very close sextile, which is why we've included it. And we like to include sextiles because they're easy to miss. Our lives are so busy, we sometimes don't notice there's a subtleness to a sextile. It's an opportunity, a possibility. There's no demand in it. There's no automatic gift in it. We have to activate it in order to get the benefits of it. The benefit is going to be coming from this profound inner change in your own understanding of the behind the scenes part of who you are. That Pluto is newly there in your 12th house. So you've been really having to navigate a very big change, a shedding of your own understanding of who you are, either who you are on the level of your psychological patterns or your spiritual understandings. There's some profound change going on in that area. That change and how you are navigating it is really offering this opportunity to increase your understanding further of how that gift you have in the 10th house and how you can use it. Okay, my cat is distracting me, so you got to take it from here, Jenny. He's trying
the cat strikes.
He's trying to climb my microphone. He thinks it's a tree.
Well, I think you've covered things pretty well. I just will think I'll just offer this little twist, which I think is something I've said a couple times recently about Pisces and Pluto being there, which is that the 12th house also can refer to the way the collective is exerting its force on you. Like you might be rising up to meet the collective in a way, like you may have a job as a CEO of a big corporation, or you might be someone who's recently entered politics or something like that. So I just want to get that across. Like it can be that there might be, ironically, with Pluto in the 12th house, it's almost like a sense of like powerlessness in that you're just kind of like, whoa, I'm dealing with something with the collective. I'm not sure that flash was across your screen, a cat. But anyway, I just wanted to add that. And because that also can tie very tightly in with your career. If that's true for you, that you have this bigger role in life where you have quite a bit of power at your disposal, then it's easy to see how this Sagittarius full moon can sort of impress upon you the importance of your the wisdom of your leadership, through your professional
Oh.
life, through collective forces. So that also could be a factor and just something to think about. But no matter what, it's like, just think about how the 10th and the 12th work together. The behind the scenes subconscious patterns / the collective, and then whatever your professional / social reputation is. I mean, there's a clear connection between these two things and how they work together. And both of them are in the sort of collective part of the chart. So, yeah, interesting moment in time, and hope that you really consider how to take advantage of that, of this moment, and step into
Yeah,
some
it
humor
really
and
is.
leadership.
Yeah, humor will serve you well in the workplace.
Yeah.
It definitely will. I like that you brought in the collective thing with that Pluto in the 12th house there as well. It's really interesting, and this is a very interesting. I think it's a fascinating full moon. I love talking about it. I love talking about it with you, Jenny. So thanks for
That's good.
continuing to do this process together, because I enjoy it a lot.
Yes, thank you, Lori. I appreciate it too. And I appreciate anyone who's still listening. So thank you. I hope that you get something out of it, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you. Have a good full moon, everyone.